Hi everybody and welcome along to Get Stuck In. The BDI viewers will notice that we have been to IKEA. We are happy ahead of a busy schedule in the run-up to Christmas, and we've got lots of special guests. Going to speak to Martin Dixon and Dave Ord in due course. But first of all, what's this? Now the big question we need to answer this week is, where are we with the likes of Bravemansgame and Shishkin? Dan Barber, Martin Dixon are going to fumble around and not really give us an answer. We wanted to know what you think, but the powers to be have went one step further. They've got in the Christmas spirit nice and early. They've helicoptered in Daryl Jacob, the man that should know because you rode Bravemansgame. How are you keeping?
Very good, yeah. Been busy, been in Ireland a lot, racing over here a lot. So, yeah, look at just keeping busy, keeping the wool from the door.
Let's talk Bravemansgame. Obviously, you went there odds on to win a Grade 1. You didn't win the Grade 1. Talk us through it, Royal guys, just taking over from you. Just watching it, I thought everything went perfect. I was trying to pick an excuse for him on the day. I couldn't visually see one.
No, look, I went up there, hugely excited of riding the King George winner and, the Gold Cup. And I generally felt like as if I kept it very, very simple, kept the fractions nice. I thought he'd be a very, very difficult horse to beat. I was hugely excited to get back and ride, a big horse and a big winner for Paul again. And
in a race that's been good to you.
And yeah, exactly, in my own backyard. And we jumped off, and again, I just went a nice, comfortable gallop. I was happy. I kind of had it in my head if I could get 27 to 29 mile an hour the whole way around, I'd be very comfortable, and I could use his little bit of speed at the back of 3 out. And I jumped off, and he never really took me as well as he had done. I've watched a lot of his replays and I've sat on him. And when Harry Cobden when he rides him and when the horse is really buzzing, Harry's heels are always slightly down. The horse is always taking him nice. Yeah. And he didn't really take me for the first maybe 5 furlongs, and then it was great when Harry came up sides me, and I thought, perfect. When Harry came up sides me, I'll slot in behind him, and he gradually got hold of the bridle a little bit, and then he started travelling a little bit better with me. When Harry's horse dropped out very, very tamely down the back straight, I thought, perfect. This is, just all I got to do now is just keep hold of him now, and I knew Royal Payal was a good stayer, and I thought. When he came on my outside, I thought, before he's never got within 10 lengths of me, and I thought, just keep it very, very simple from now on in. He came up sides me, he went in front of me, and I thought, perfect. Again, I came back onto the bridle, and I travelled quite nicely. And then when I've turned into the home straight, Charlie gave his lad a squeeze, and Charlie kept going, and I kind of had to chase him down, but still okay on the bridle. Not probably as well as what he would be with Harry on another day. And the minute I've jumped 3 out, I give him a squeeze into 3 out, and I jumped 3 out well. And the minute I jumped 3 out, the horse just didn't quite have it in him. And I knew then I was in trouble, because it's a long way from the back of 3 out if you're off the bridle against the stayer. I knew I was slightly in trouble, and I tried to get a little bit. I tried to switch him, because you know yourself.
And get a second win.
If you switch a horse, sometimes they can change onto a new lead.
Yeah, and run again.
You can get another run out of him. So I thought that was my only chance, really, if I was going to have another crack at him, was to try and switch, to change his legs, to get another run at him. But he just didn't have it in him,
Do you know, as people will say, the race at Cheltenham, the Gold Cup, has really emptied him and taken it out of him. But I don't really want to run into that at this stage, because he showed so much more zip down the back straight in the Charlie Hall, didn't he? So it's probably, are you thinking it's a close proximity, the Charlie Hall to the Betfair? It was worth a go. He's odds on to win it. You have to have a go and dismiss Paul Nicholls at your peril, getting him back, freshen him up.
Yeah, the thing about it is, Paul's an absolute genius. If you ever want one trainer to be on your side to get a horse back to his best, then he's the man, isn't he? They've always said, haven't they? They've always said, he's a horse that's really, really good when he's very, very fresh and spaces out his races. He doesn't take a lot of races. And look at, maybe Weatherby did take a little bit more out of him, or maybe just like Paul says, maybe he just needs to be very, very fresh and really, really well to see him at his very, very best. And I could see why Paul and the owners wanted to go for the Betfair Chase, because obviously, looking at it, it looked like a Grade 1 that was there for the taking, really. If you looked at beforehand,
if you hadn't lined up, you'd be thinking, "Oh my goodness, 3 runners, we've missed a trick here."
Yeah, we've missed it. We've missed a beat here. And I fully justify them going for it. You know, and for me, it was great to have a leg up on such a high-profile horse like him. And look, it didn't work out on the day. I didn't give the horse a hard race once he was beaten. So hopefully they've got that in their favour. And like you say, it's, you know, Paul said that, you know, the King George's, and, you know, and I wouldn't bet against him, not having him ready for the King George. But, you know, sometimes, you know, I was looking at the form or something. I think the first horses in the Gold Cup, they've all come out, and I think they've all got beaten since. So, you know, and there was a lot of talk about the Gold Cup last year was a very, very fast run race. You know, it was a bit of a war of a tradition, and you know, but you know, the King George is going to be his main Gold Cup, and like you say, hopefully, please God, he'll get there in one piece, and he can show the real Bravemansgame.
While we're talking about the Gold Cup, what's going to win it? Jerry Colombe's a solid one. Fast or Slow, you rode at the weekend behind Fast or Slow and Blue Lord. What do you make of him?
Yeah, I was impressed with him, Niall. I have to admit, we didn't go very quick. I mean, the fractions were very, very slow the whole way around in the John Durkan. Obviously, I rode Blue Lord, and I travelled into it, and I thought actually the race was probably nearly going to be run to suit me. I got my lad nice and settled, and I jumped great, and turning into home straight. I thought with my 2 mile pace that I had with Blue Lord, I would take a lot of beating, and I got my lad into a lovely position turning in. I had Fast or Slow on my inside. I had Paul on my outside, and Patrick on Appreciate. And we've really quickened down to 2 out. I've winged 2 out, along with the 4 horses were pretty much upsides, going down to 2 out. And they've kept quick, and I've had a little bit of a blow. I'll need the run. I got a little bit tired. But, you know, the way Appreciate and Fast or Slow really quickened the line, even again after the last, you know, it was very, very impressive. He's definitely a horse that's on the up.
If you could ride any horse in the Gold Cup now, you know, we're talking heading towards early December. One horse would have been Jerry Colombe, Fast or Slow. Go on.
You know, I'd love to have a crack at Bravemansgame when he's really at the height of his powers.
So keep Dory going north, keep Cobden and him, give you another go in March.
I'd love to have a crack at Bravemansgame when he's when he's in full swing, when he's at the height of his powers. I'd love to have a crack at him, but I was really impressed with Fast or Slow. Jerry Colombe, I've ridden against him obviously a few times last year as a novice, and with Braun and stuff like that, and he's usually exciting. And I thought actually the way he won at Down Royal,
despite getting conflated, taking him out
to the left all the time, and still showing that turn of foot at the back of 2 to 2 out.
On the first run of the season against 3 horses, you all had a run.
I thought that was impressive. I think it's an open Gold Cup, but I think nothing at the moment is really set their stall out to say, you know, I'm the horse to beat in the Gold Cup at the moment, because Galopin Des Champs, even like again him around punching the other day, he missed quite a few fences with Paul. Clearly, you know, he's obviously in need of the run as well. I mean, he's with Willie, and Willie will have him absolutely primed come March. But I think what it has done is I think it's opened it up an awful lot. I think there's plenty of people could go there to Cheltenham in March. If you had the Gold Cup tomorrow, I think plenty of people could go racing tomorrow thinking they've got a chance of winning the Gold Cup.
Shishkin didn't put his hand up at the weekend. You're probably frustrated not winning on an odds-on shot at Haydock. How would Nico de Boinville be feeling coming back in? Talk us through what happened. Or
yeah, it's you know, going down to the start, he's always sometimes been a little bit like
behind the bridle, looking back at you.
Yeah, looking back at you going down to start. A few times I've always thought, you know, oh, you're a little bit like you're not really. It doesn't look like as if he's really up for the race. But then he goes and proves me wrong, and then he goes and wins. But you know, even when at the start when they were getting their girths and all that tied up, you know, he had his head up, ears back, and he had to get the help of one of the starters to help him to get forward. Now, I don't particularly like that anyway as a start when horses are doing that. And then when, like say, the tapes went up, he thought about it for a second and then just whipped around. You know, unfortunately, he gave Nico absolutely no chance because he'd done it so quickly. Look, as a jockey, it's very, very frustrating, you know, and especially when you're odds on in a big race like that. But, you know, there was nothing Nico could have done about it because it just happened so quickly. Horses are very sharp, they're very quick. Whenever they do whip around, you know, you see Nico lost one of his irons, his right iron, I think he actually came out because he's gone that quick. So, you know, clearly Nico wasn't expecting him to do it, and you know, it was And
even if you are expecting him to do it, there's not a lot you can do about it.
No,
if he doesn't want to go,
they've got they've got the power behind them, they've got the muscle. If they're going to go, there's very, very little a jockey can do on top of them. But, you know, it's frustrating because, like you say, they would have went in there, they would have really fancied him. I hear he's going to the rehearsal
Saturday, we'll see him.
So I think, you know, Nico, you know, they'll put that right. They won't let him get away with that twice in a row. They'll have sharpened him up, and you know, I can't imagine. I'd be very, very surprised if he does it again.
We're going to see him in rehearsal. Impaire Et Passe, could see him at the weekend. How excited? You've been over, you've rode him a few times.
Yeah,
He looks proper.
You know, I was really, really excited when I sat on him to start of last year a few times before he went on and done what he did.
Does he feel different?
Yeah.
Why?
He's just got this monster stride. He's a horse that just covers so much ground with such little ease. You know, and his jumping, it's like as if he doesn't even take off. And I remember years ago, I was very, very lucky to ride Masterminded for Paul. And he was very same. You know, when Masterminded jumped, you didn't even know you were taking off. He was that quick to take off and to land and to get away at the back of the fences. And this lad, to me, he's not far behind him. And he just got a monster stride, and he just gallops and he works with so much ease. You know, it's like Willie's, you know, 2 miles, 2.5. You know, I don't think he's got anything to faze him. And I've sat on him this year, and I thought, last year I thought he looked a little bit narrow from his shoulders and his neck. So I was really looking forward to coming back and seeing him this year. And he's definitely broadened, he's definitely strengthened. So again, that's a massive positive for him. Again, he's strengthened up. He's still only a young horse, and I'm really excited to see him this weekend and see how he gets on this weekend.
Good stuff. We're looking forward to seeing you the weekend. Thanks for coming in, answering the questions, and keep safe, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff from Daryl Jacob. Lots to pick up on there, and he's been busy the last few weeks. Obviously, been in Ireland the weekend, riding in Fast and Slows racing. Bravemansgame. We were at Haydock at the weekend. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I think my overall immersion immediately after the race was underwhelmed and disappointed, to be honest. And that's nothing to do with Royal Pagaille, really, in that he's been a great servant and he's been on the scene in top British races now for 3 or 4 seasons, really, and he's been a fantastic horse. But he isn't proper Grade 1 material.
He's been well beaten the Cheltenham Gold Cup the last 3 years.
We've got enough evidence in the locker to know really that it's unlikely that Royal Pagaille has suddenly developed into a 170, 175 horse. He isn't that. And yet he's strolled to a pretty wide margin win in what should be a competitive Grade 1 chase, but it wasn't. So you're kind of going over the same stuff again as last week, that there just isn't enough depth to these Grade 1 chases in the UK. And you know, one horse disappoints in the case of Galopin Des Champs, Bravemansgame on Saturday at Haydock, and you're left with an open goal to a horse that really is probably more Grade 2 than Grade 1, and yet he's winning one of the biggest races, what should be one of the biggest races of the season. So as a racing fan, National Hunt racing fan, I was left a little bit disappointed and underwhelmed.
You're hoping that Fast or Slow, Dave, or Jerry Clum, one of them new horses on the scene, the horses that are going up the way, can really go and bolt up in a Gold Cup for the sport?
They're the two, aren't they? They're the two who we've got from last season's novices or last season's second season chasers who are on the up. And I think it's interesting, Jerry Colomb favourite for the King George in the week. Gordon not ruling it in, but not ruling it out.
I think he probably wasn't ruling it in, and then he's seen what's happened and thinking, I'm now ruling it in.
It's obvious, isn't it, over here? The cupboard's pretty bare.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Shishkin. He was the one who we thought should go to the Betfair Chase. He didn't. He went to Ascot and clearly didn't fancy it. And a lot of coverage this week, Timeform squiggle. Timeform make the point that they've given him the squiggle not because of his running style. It's because they're not certain he's going to jump off. Nick Henderson himself said, next time, how could he guarantee it won't happen again at Kempton? And you can't. And it was just so... I thought it summed up the state of... I don't want to sound negative, but the jumps game in Britain at the minute, we had a Betfair Chase that fell the way that it did, and for all as Martin summed it up to perfection about Royal Pagaille winning, fantastic horse, deserves a big day in the sun, but he's not going to win a Gold Cup, and he's not going to go and take that division by the horns. And then we go to Ascot, and we have Shishkin refusing to race, picked Dory about £20 below his best, and still good enough to pick up the pieces and win that Grade 2. So it was a Saturday that I was really looking forward to, and just felt like, nah, by the end.
Yeah. Santa Claus, we're all going to write a letter. Please go with some decent chasers, half-decent chasers. Willie Mullins might have some. Patrick will know all about it. Once again, I'm not allowed to speak to Patrick. The standoff lasts another week. When will I be allowed to be? Maybe by Christmas. But Dave Ord was allowed to catch up with him.
Well, Patrick, another fantastic weekend. And watching on, you seem to get a great spin from Appreciate It in the John Durkan.
I did, yeah. He got we got a very easy lead, surprisingly easy lead probably, and but he jumped very well, got into a great rhythm. I was a bit frustrated after the race. I don't think I was on the best horse. I don't think it's a race I should have won, but I think it's maybe a race I could have won. Look, you're going down to the last fence. There's no inside rail, so you're trying to stay off it a bit. And he's a horse that can be a bit leery, and he jumped a little bit left at the last. And JJ's ridden very well. He's obviously, he's known Mike how it goes a bit left, so he's got up our inside. Look, he might have come around us anyway, but it was a bit annoying. But it was a fantastic run. I've appreciated, and hopefully now he can go and fulfill the potential we thought he had last year, because he just disappointed us last year. We didn't find any major reason, but he definitely wasn't at the top of the game.
And were you expecting Galopin Des Champs to come past you? Were you expecting to hear him or see him come on the scene? And what did you make of his reappearance?
Yeah, look, we've gone down over the last two fences at huge speed, and I was actually surprised. I didn't think he'd bite me after we jumped the last, to be honest. But Galopin never jumped. Paul just said he, even early on, and then at the third last, he jumps a bit. He jumps a bit slow, and Blue Lord kind of gets up his inside. He gets pushed 3 wide to home bend. He definitely didn't jump as well as he can, which suggests there's something, a little niggle at him somewhere. Seems fine after the race. I wouldn't be of the opinion that it's post-Gold Cup exertions or anything like that. I just think on the day he didn't jump like he can. I thought it was a good run regardless. He didn't get a hard race, and for March, I'd still be quite happy.
And on Saturday, Stateman won another Morgiana hurdle, and he just oozed class in that, didn't he?
He did. Look, the race cut up. He was more than entitled to do what he did. He did it very well. He showed that he's still the horse he was last year. Obviously, Impaire Et Passe is staying hurdling, so they'll probably meet at some stage, I'd imagine. And then Constitution Hill obviously awaits in March. So hard to see how he can turn the tables with Constitution Hill, but there's plenty of good races we won in Ireland.
Now, we spoke last week and you said you'd schooled Gaelic Warrior and you were really pleased with how he was going. What did you make of that chasing debut?
Yeah. Look, sure, it was jaw-dropping. Yeah, you probably would like to see him a little bit more sensible, perhaps. He was doing a lot with Paul and doing more than he wanted. He really enjoyed himself. He enjoys jumping fences. So, the way he ran, you might be thinking of coming back in trip. Even though I think he's well able to, I think 3 miles is well within his compass that he showed in Punchdown, but he's going to have to relax and settle. And maybe with racing he will. When he won his maiden hurdle last year, he won by 86 lengths. He did something similar. So maybe the more he races, the more he relaxes. But he does seem, it's very possible he could be a better chaser the way he looked there. He definitely is better going right-handed. If you're thinking about Cheltenham, he's beaten Cheltenham twice, ran very well, but probably not ran to his best because it's left-handed. But again, there's lots of good races outside of Cheltenham.
And last year's Bumpers team beginning to make their mark over hurdles. Predator's goal looked very good on his hurdling debut.
Yeah, he's improved. His work the last couple of weeks was better than what he was doing before he won a Punchdown last year even. He's a horse. He's a typical Giggleson horse, plenty of size and scope, well able to jump a fence, go further. He probably does want to brush up his jumping a little bit. He was a bit sketchy and a bit high at the last, but that'll come. But I think he's the horse now that's maybe going to surprise. He's maybe going to be higher up the pecking order than we thought he was at the start of the year.
Really, Tommy Wrong led on with stable 1-2 down at Cork. How high could he rank, Patrick?
Look, to be honest, I was a bit disappointed with the performance, but that can sometimes happen in Cork. It's a flat track. There's 3 hurdles in the straight, and sometimes it can be unflattering. I would think he's better than the Bear Result, albeit I think Listening Our Fortune is a good horse. He obviously won the Land Rover. But maybe Reading Tommy Wrong might want to go further. He did show a little tendency to go to his left up the straight, so maybe he'll be a bit better going the other way as well. But I'd be disappointed if he's not better than the Bear Result.
Patrick, it's a time of year when strange things can happen, and Tulla Hill beaten at long odds on his novice hurdling debut. What did you make of that? Yeah,
very disappointing. Now, the winner is a good horse. I would think, to me, it was 2 miles, 6 furlongs, and Jack set out his stall good and early, and I think our fella just blew up very simply. like, didn't jump as well as he can either. But I think maybe that was a case of just he got tired and he, his jumping was definitely very poor later on in the race. I wouldn't be overly concerned. I'd be thinking you'll see a different horse next time and we'll probably drop him back in trip.
Thanks to Patrick Mullins. Galopin Des Champs, it was a messy race, but I think as comebacks go, we know he's a bit ring rusty. He's always a bit ring rusty with the jumping. It wasn't truly run. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I wouldn't be too negative personally about just he got beat. I thought under the circumstances he ran pretty well. It was a slow run race, that didn't really suit him. He didn't jump as well as he should and as well as he can. Now what it does underline is that is a little bit of a flaw in Galopin Des Champs. We've seen it before, even in winning a Cheltenham Gold Cup last year. He wasn't the most efficient jumper in the race by any means. And that is something that I think you've got to be aware of with him. In some races, his ability just gets him through and gets him past that. In the way that the race was run at the weekend, it didn't, because it was too slowly run. He didn't have an opportunity to gather his momentum in time. But I would still say there was enough there for me to think that he retains his ability. Others will differ with that, but I wouldn't be hugely negative about him and that as a comeback run for him. By the way, if you're not following a Twitter feed called Race IQ, it's worth doing so, because they've got a good segment where they look at the jumping efficiency of horses through the races and lengths gained, lengths lost over the fences, and they did it on the weekend with Galopin Des Champs, and he lost nearly 6 lengths over others in the field with his jumping at the fences, and that kind of underlined that he wasn't as fluent as Fast or Slow, who was gaining lengths at his fences, and it's just a really interesting little way of looking at it.
Good stuff. I want to touch Gaelic Warrior with you. He'll split opinion, right-handed, left-handed. We saw him right-handed last week, beating what do you describe him behind? But he's obviously got a high-class engine.
He's a Grade 1 horse, isn't he? You can see the tools are there, and it's where it falls into place. It was a chasing debut that reminded me a bit of Galopin Des Champs. So when you're watching it, and they used the words jaw-dropping, I think Patrick described it as, and Willie said he was dumbstruck by what he saw. He was too keen, too free, he's a fence clear, did it nicely. What I thought was really interesting from the piece with Patrick was he's adamant he's a horse who needs to go right-handed. He can operate left-handed, but he says the 2 runs at Cheltenham was fair way below his...
With Boodles off 128, was it? If the memory serves. If you can't win off 128 going out, no, you can't.
This is one superstar who I don't think all roads will necessarily lead to Cheltenham. It'll be interesting to see what they do, but you can't wait to see him next time, can you, after that?
No, absolutely. Right, let's talk more Cheltenham Festival focus, Impaire Et Passe, etc., in the double green colours. Anthony Brumley has given us an update.
So Impaire Et Passe, the plan is to run Sunday in the Hatton's Grace. Came through a gallop at the Curragh yesterday nicely, so all systems go for Sunday. Doesn't look an easy race, but then it's a Grade 1 hurdle, isn't it? Tiahupu, who's favourite for the Stayers Hurdle, will be a tough nut to crack. And it's got to be remembered, our horse only run 4 times over hurdles, and it'll be a fair test for him first time up. So fingers crossed he runs well. What else have we got? El Fabiolo. The plan is to go 10th of December, a week on Sunday for the Hiddy Way. And then I would say the Grade 1 at Christmas is only 18 days later. So I don't think Willie has got it's not in his head to try to squeeze a second run into him quickly. So he'd have to go for something in January after that, I suppose. Blue Lord ran really well on Sunday, but he's come back with a bit of a leg injury, so we're just going to see how that... well, he won't be running at Christmas, certainly. It was whether or not you can get him back for the spring. But, yeah, that was disappointing there, but he did run a great race. We've got a nice young novice hurdler that won the other day. It's For Me, and I imagine he'll be getting a graded race entry over Christmas. There is a Grade 1 at Leopardstown over Christmas, over 2 miles. I imagine that looks fairly... There isn't a Grade 2 or 3 over 2 miles before then, so I suspect he might have to go straight to the Grade 1. He was very keen in his race, but not as keen as he was in his bumpers, so the hurdling has definitely settled him a little bit, and he'll have to continue to learn to settle a bit better to obviously get to the very top, but we've got big hopes for him. Reading Tommy Wrong was a maiden winner at the weekend. We thought he'd win a bit easier than he did, but it was a slowly run race and very heavy ground, and it was 2 miles, and it became a bit of a sprint. And I think he's a 2.5 miler and would be much better in an even paced race, better really. But I think he's quite a nice prospect. And that's about the news.
Thanks very much to Anthony Brumley, and it's exciting times into the weeks ahead with a couple of them superstars, in particular Impaire Et Passe. I really cannot wait to see him. I can't wait to hear Martin Dixon's tracker horses. What's caught your eye? There's been plenty of racing to go at.
One of them's in the double green, would you believe?
Is it?
It is, yeah. Park and Onsiad, who won at Haydock on Saturday. We can pick this up now. He's in front, white cap. He'd cruised his way to the front, travelled really strongly through the race. What impressed me was, through the first part of the race, he was at the back, he was held up, but he was pulling too hard, and with a circuit to go, Ben Bromley took it up and went forward on him, put him in a handy position. And despite pulling really hard early, he had enough left to see his race out well. Against some really seasoned, experienced, good quality handicappers. The runner-up Stainsby Girl had won this race at Haydock last year, and you can see pretty much the whole way up the running, the horse is in control. He's just idling a little bit, getting a bit tired late on. But like I said, used a lot of steam up, pulling his way into a handy position early on in the race. He won that on Saturday off a mark of 114, so he's still got loads of mileage in his handicap mark. So it was a good race off bottom weight, but they can go lots of different places with him. Maybe pick some lower level handicaps with him if they wish, or again, they could go down the foot of the weights in some top end handicaps.
This is his trip.
I think so, yeah, because he's a keen going, strong travelling horse. I think he's got lots of pace, and keep him around where he was, and there's plenty more handicaps to be won with him.
I wonder what time could he sneak into a Betfair Hurdler. I ask you about the trip because Lanzarote, 2 mile 5, sharpish track.
Yeah.
You know, if his mark, he's going to get into something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that was an intermediate trip on Saturday at Haydock. I think they could drop him back.
Yeah, a well-run race.
It's one of them. 2 mile 3 at Haydock is a
speedway.
But it's a unique trip, isn't it? It's it's not obvious where you would go. But he's a strong traveller. I wouldn't worry too much about him dropping back slightly in a more strongly run race. But I do think there's a lot of mileage still in his mark, and there'll be more handicaps to be won with him.
Okay, what else?
Lord Snooty would be the other one as well.
Nick Luck was in press pace as well.
He finished 6th in the Stayers Hurdle at Haydock. Again, it's all we mentioned last week. Always a strong piece of form. It's a race that throws up loads of winners through the season. Christian Williams trains him. I thought Haydock was a bit tight for him, Niall, to be honest with you, but he still ran pretty well for a long way. Just got outpaced from the second last, and again, he's low 120s rated. I think there's plenty of mileage in his mark, and I wouldn't give up on him yet.
Okay, earnings show we referenced Dan Barber, but unfortunately Dan, at the last minute, has to go to his chiropodist. So, he sent a pigeon. The pigeon has arrived.
I've got it in my hand.
And he's got a couple of horses not to keep on the right side of, or maybe to keep on the right side of?
To keep on the right side of. 2 track horses from Dan, who is stranded in Huddersfield, of all places to be stranded. Took good pubs near the station in Huddersfield, if he is caught. So anyway, the 2 tracker horses, Breaking Cover is the first one. But the second one is Belgo Prince. We have got footage of this horse. Martin, this was the race imposed at 12, wasn't it? At Cheltenham, and it was a strong contest.
Yeah, and Tony Martin trains Belgo Prince. He's just in the green and yellow colours towards the near side, starting to make a move, and you'll see final flight of hurdles. Oosh! Oh. Down on his nose, loses all momentum, probably cost him 5 or 6 lengths, and that's race gone, isn't it? He has nothing left on the back of that. But this was a hot race. He was obviously banging contention at the time of that mistake. He would have finished a lot closer. And you can see from that he should be a well-handicapped horse. So Dan wanted to flag him up as one to follow.
Okay. So keep a close eye on them too.
4, Martin's 2 as well.
That whole race will throw up a lot of winners there.
Yeah, it will.
There's
a heap of handicap debutants
it was
every year.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a tracker horses to keep on the right side of in the coming weeks and months. Right, something for the weekend. It might be a quiet weekend if Jack Frost gets his way. So they're sort of talking about -3s, -4s, but Frost covers are going down. Fingers crossed we do get some.
Looks like we're going to get Shishkin in the rehearsal
yeah,
doesn't it?
I'm surprised, are you? I thought he mooted it. I thought that won't happen as an initial.
Yeah, I mean, they've got nowhere else to go. I mean, it might be great to see, if let's say that it's on and he goes and absolutely hoses up, maybe it'll open Nicky's eyes to this can happen.
That's
true. You can do
or
this.
it might be off and there might be jumpers, bumpers somewhere at the weekend. I know
we can live in hope, can't we? We can live in hope.
The BHA, again, it's a flat jockey's break this week, and there's emails going around this morning about putting extra flat meetings on this weekend, so it doesn't sound hopeful for the weekend. But anyway, let's pretend it's going ahead.
Yeah.
Because it's a fantastic weekend. We're fighting fifth over the years, and down at Newbury, the Coral Gold Cup. It's a really good weekend, Jerry.
Yeah, we get an opportunity to see some good horses. Coral Gold Cup will be a really good race. I mentioned Marla Mission a few weeks back on this programme, and he's one of the favourites now for the Coral Gold Cup on Saturday, so I'd hope he'd have a good chance there. But horse I've got my eye on, no betting for this race yet, but just keen to see him in action again. I think he's a well-handicapped horse. I'll wait and see what price he is for Saturday's Jerry Field, and that's Brentford Hope, who really impressed me for Harry Derham on his comeback run. He was a very classy, smart horse on the flat when he was
Antipoo's favourite for the... No, he was the shortest priced English-trained horse for the Derby.
It was, wasn't
back end of a 2-year-old.
Yeah, well, look, he was a really classy horse when he was with Richard Hughes, and he took a bit of time to find his feet as a hurdler. Harry Derham's got hold of him. He absolutely bolted up, didn't he, at Newbury on his comeback run. Now, the handicap he's put him up 11. I shouldn't say only 11, but it might be a case of only 11.
Yeah.
Because he won by 16
You
lengths.
could have put 2 stone on him last night, and he would have won.
Yeah.
He would have won.
Yeah. Exactly. So he's still only rated 133, which I think he has got a big handicap hurdle in him. Now, he might end up being 6-4 on Saturday. I don't know, but I'm just going to be... I've got my eye on him. If he's what I regard as a fair price, then I'll be backing him. But we'll see what price he is for Saturday. But Brentford Hope definitely one to have a good look at for the Jerry Field on Saturday.
We're banking on the tropical winds hitting Newbury, because I'm going to go Newbury as well. That Coral Gold Cup, it's a cracker. We might not have the Gold Cup horses necessarily that you might, up-and-comers going.
Might have.
Marla Mission, but don't follow. 40-1, was it?
Yeah, 60.
Yeah, 66. Yeah,
He probably wanted to be honest.
I mean, we could be re-recording next week with a new Gold Cup favourite, couldn't we?
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's about 7/8 the field at the minute, which is where you'd want a big handicap chase to be. I like Stolen Silver. I thought it's going to win a big pot for some time now. Sam Thomas started the season really well. Upped him to 3 miles at Chepstow his reappearance, and he hosed it. Now, he beat T Clipper and a set of horses that you would expect him to beat, but he did it with any amount in hand. I think he's a seriously talented chaser. Yard of flying. Sam Twiston-Davies rides, unexposed at the trip. So I'm going for Stolen Silver. Each way, I'm sure you'll get 5 or 6 places on the day, each way in that Coral Gold Cup.
Okay, good stuff. Right, hopefully the weather will play its part, because it is a good weekend's racing. Right, thanks to Martin. Thanks to Dave. Do join us next week once again, where hopefully we'll have plenty to review. See you then.